Hello friends, good morning all of you. Welcome to this short video class. So today we are going to discuss about what is thalamus. So the thalamus, it is an ovoid mass of gray matter which is present in the lateral wall of the third ventricle. So here we can identify the medial surface of the cerebral hemisphere. We can identify the medially as we have seen the third ventricle which is present at the midline. So the lateral wall of the third ventricle which consisting of a large ovoid mass of gray matter called as the thalamus. And now we are going to see, so this is the way the thalamus which is located at the lateral wall of the third ventricle. So in this picture we can identify a sulcus which is present over here at the medial midpoint where the lateral surface of the third ventricle. We can identify a sulcus called as hypothalamic sulcus. So this hypothalamic sulcus which is separating the lateral area into two parts. In the above area or the dorsal to this hypothalamic sulcus we can identify the thalamus. The ventral to this hypothalamic sulcus we can identify the hypothalamus. So this is where the hypothalamus is located, and here you can identify the thalamus location. And coming to this thalamus, the parts location. So it is having two ends and the four surfaces. Let us see all the two ends and the four surfaces. So the two ends are anterior end and the posterior end. So the anterior end, the location is already I have seen that it is present at the lateral wall of the third ventricle, and the anterior end is located or projecting towards medially. Obviously, the posterior end, it is also called as pulvinar, the posterior end of the thalamus, which is projecting posterolaterally. And this anterior end is present exactly at the posterior boundary of interventricular foramen of Monro. Interventricular foramen of Monro. And now we are going see the structures. The posterior end of the thalamus, that is called as pulvinar, so it is overlaps the superior colliculus. So posterior end of the thalamus pulvinar, it is overlaps the superior colliculus of the midbrain. So this superior colliculus, it is a part of the midbrain and presents a lateral geniculate body and the medial geniculate body. Here you can identify the lateral geniculate body and the medial geniculate body. And the lateral geniculate body and the superior colliculus, which is connecting or overlaps with the posterior end of the thalamus. So between the superior colliculus and the posterior end of the thalamus, we can identify the junction part is called as the brachium. So moving to the surfaces, here you can see the brachium of superior colliculus, where it is going to overlaps with the posterior of the thalamus, that is posterior end is called as pulvinar. So coming to the superior surface, the superior surface is somewhat convex in shape. The structures present over the superior surface are stria terminalis, and we can identify the thalamostriate vein, and also the choroid plexus, and we can identify a bundle of nerve fibers which are running over the superior surface called as stria medullaris thalami. So these are the structures we can identify at the superior surface, and we can identify the body of the fornix which is present on the superior surface. That body of the fornix is separating the superior surface into lateral area and the medial area. So the lateral area forms the floor of the central part of the lateral ventricle, and it is covered by the ependyma and overlapped by the choroid plexus. Here you can identify the choroid plexus, and these. So coming to the medial area of the superior surface, we can identify the tela choroidea of the third ventricle. Okay, this is how the superior surface is present. So at the posterior part, we can identify the superior surface medial area posterior part, which is connected with the apex of the habenular triangle. Okay, that is about the superior surface. Okay, so try to remember the superior surface structures are thalamostriate vein. Then we can identify the body of the fornix, and also we can identify the choroid plexus of the third ventricle. And it is connected with the apex of the habenular trigone. Yeah, here also you can identify the choroid plexus over here, and then here you can identify the thalamus striate vein, and here which is medially we can identify the choroid plexus, which is the forming the ependymal roof of the third ventricle. And coming to the inferior surface, so the inferior surface or lower surface is related to zona incerta. We can identify here, you can identify, so it is related to the zona incerta, and subthalamic nucleus and subthalamic prolongation of the midbrain containing rostral end of the red nucleus. Let us see that rostral end of the red nucleus over here, and substantia nigra. And coming to the medial surface, so medial surface of the thalamus is major portion of the lateral wall of the third ventricle, and it is dorsal to the hypothalamic sulcus. And lined by the ependymal roof, and right and left thalamus are connected by part called as interthalamic adhesion, which is present at the medial surface of the thalamus, right and left thalamus. And coming to the next surface is, here you can identify the interthalamic adhesion. So in the 70% subjects, you can identify this interthalamic adhesion, which is connecting the right and left thalamus, right and left cerebral hemispheres and the thalamus. And coming to the lateral surface of the thalamus, it is related to the posterior limb of internal capsule, and also the lentiform nucleus. So that is about the ends and the surfaces. And coming to the subdivisions of thalamus, if you take a transverse section of the thalamus and try to identify what are the structures present in the thalamus, or we can identify a Y-shaped band called as internal medullary laminae. And the internal medullary laminae, it is going to diverge as it is a Y shape. So between the divergence of the internal medullary laminae, we can identify the anterior group, and lateral to this internal medullary laminae, we can identify the lateral group, and medial to this is the medial group. And medial to this medial group, you can identify the midline nuclei, and inside the internal medullary laminae, we can identify another group called as centromedian nucleus. So regarding all this anterior group, lateral group, medial group, and centromedian nucleus and the midline nucleus, I have done another class. So please go through that video for further clarification of all the nucleus and their connections as well. So subscribe to my channel for further videos, my dear friends. See you soon. Till that, bye.